is Fuck You Dad.
Well, welcome to another episode of Fuck You Dad, everybody. This week we have a very special guest. We got Timmy Tootle, who I think is a perfect guest because you look like you both have a deadbeat dad and you are one currently.
Okay, word. My name's Timmy Tootle, actually. Thank you, Kenyon. I consider you a close friend.
Timmy Tootle.
Timmy Tootle.
He gave you a very Irish twist.
You sound like a shitty chain of Irish bars, like O'Harrigan's or something.
Yeah, right.
You sound like a place that just serves green beer. And
I'm going to Toodles.
Yeah.
Might not come back.
Tootle sounds like a place of dads who have left their family. They go hang out over there.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. I feel like Tootle is a name that you hear it and you're like, oh, is that real? And then you laugh for a second and you just feel bad for the motherfucker with a name like that.
Yeah.
Tootle. Yep.
Do you always go by Timmy, too?
Tim Wyatt Tootle. So I grew up going by Wyatt in Savannah. And then when I moved up here...
Wait, why did you just do your middle name guy?
Well, dude, who in the fuck wants to go by Timothy Tootle?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's like when people call me Kenny, and I'm like, no.
Right.
Kenny's lives in trailer park.
Well, I call you Kenny.
Oh,
the Butcher.
Kenny? Yeah, I've never called you. I hear people go like, how's Kenny? And I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, well, Kenny, if people are calling me Kenny, I think I'm Kenny when I'm like blackout drunk. That's when I'm Kenny.
Yeah.
I embrace Kennyism.
You're Kenyan right now, but Kenny's like, you have a fucking cigarette, douche? That's Kenny.
Like, really fucked up afro that was like lopsided. You were also Kenny.
Yeah, that was very
Kenny. I did have a gigantic Jufro for you.
We've talked about it on the pod.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of you like in that FUBU jersey that you had. Yeah, just like a Payless jersey on from like 2003. Hell yeah.
Those are dark, different times.
Rough times, dude.
Different times. Then,
That's okay. That's okay. I went through a Guy Harvey phase in middle school, so I can't really talk shit
What's
about
Guy Harvey?
Yeah, well, you're making references.
Oh, man. People that know this are going to be listening to this are immediately going to be like, click, turn this off. He's such a dickhead. It's like the fishing shirts. I was a fish guy.
Oh, okay.
That's something I picked up a little
Majorly finding yourself.
That's not as terrible as like, I mean, in 6th grade, I was the kid with those DC shoes, and my ankles were like this big, and the shoes were like super fat, and I never touched a skateboard.
Never skated?
Never skated.
I was such a poser, dude. I thought being a skateboarder, that's like peak coolness as a kid.
Right, yeah.
But I was, it's pretty tough to kickflip when you're like fucking 300 pounds.
Yeah.
So I would the only thing I could do is like my ollie was like a split-second manual. And I would always blame the board. I'd be like, the board's not feeling me today.
That's Kenny right there.
Yeah, Kenny shit. That's pretty Kenyan shit right there to be 4th grade. Like, the board.
The board's just fucking up.
I'm like, and so I was like I just liked the look. I liked they look cool.
Right. Yeah, they
so
did.
I'm just fat kid in skinny jeans and a DC shirt.
Oh, dude,
the DC looked like my cup sizes. It was a D and then a C cup on my chest. And then I'm just like,
it's my show. I'm Kenny. It's fucking ridiculous.
And then I fell and I just sucked, so I stopped, and I was just like, I'll just wear the clothes and be a punk. And then I fell and broke my collarbone so bad, the longboard had to be reattached with screws. So I'm like, we're done with boards.
I just lied about skateboarding to people. If I thought they would think I was cool, I'd be like, I jumped stairs.
Yeah.
Now.
You know what the thing about skateboarding is?
Like,
you need to be stupid to do it. Because, if you're standing on top of a hill, you're like, this is a dumb idea. I don't want to do it. Like, I think about my actions.
It's the falling on concrete I don't get.
Like,
there's no, like, if I fall, I'll be okay. No, if you fall, you're not going to be okay.
There's like a 10% chance you'll have to eat through a straw for the rest of your life.
Literally.
Or just to do a little,
die.
Or just to do like a little, like, whoo, like a little flip real quick.
Just so some chick in 6th grade thinks you're cool.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Except nowadays I've been noticing, boys, that there are girls that are hot and like well into their 20s and 30s that are like, I need a skater boy.
Wow.
That's a different breed. Because I feel like past high school, I never knew anybody that talked about skate. That stopped being an identity.
It's a thing now. I mean, it's a thing. I've noticed, like, I was dating this girl, and I'm going to say her name, Stephanie. She's some Greek girl that I was dating here up until like 6 months ago. And her and her friends always would be like, there's some skate park in Logan Square, I think. And they'd be like,
that seems about right.
Yeah,
that comes with gentrification.
The whole neighborhood looks like a skate park.
No, dude, it's underneath.
I don't even know. They don't look strong enough to skate. They look like they're all too iron deficient to skate.
Right. But I think you can fly if you're like fucking 75 pounds and on dope. If you're on, you know what I mean? But it's like underneath the Avondale Bridge near like Logan Square in Avondale.
Okay.
Dude, they would go there and just like smoke and picnic and like look at the hot guys that were skating. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's like a high school.
Yeah, that's
like a high school
very
thing.
high school.
Well,
thing.
speaking of high school, what were you like in high school? What was your relationship with your dad? like in high school?
Oh man, okay. Well, in high school, I was, to give you some idea, I dropped out in 10th grade. And
There we go.
Got my own apartment.
The 666 tattoo did lead me on to that conclusion.
Right.
That is
Thumbs out.
You don't scream like PhD.
Right, no, yeah, that's not the vibe I'm getting. I am
Yeah.
a fucking genius. However, not PhD. You know what I mean? I don't even, personal hefty dick. Like, what's that even stand for? You know what I mean?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's you actually nailed it. That's exactly what I mean.
It's fun because I'd like to be like, oh, you're an idiot, but I really don't know what it really could
That
stand
was actually
for.
a pretty big moment for the pod. We're like, it stands for your dad. Let's talk about your dad. It stands for let's talk about your dad.
Right. So in high school, man, I smoked a ton of pot. I lived next door to my buddy Matt, and we were both pretty into theater. Like, but we were like, at that point in time, we were like doing improv because we thought we were like cool comedy guys.
The beginning of that story didn't seem very improv-y.
No, well,
Because kids just jump out in 10th grade and like they're smoking weed all day. They're not improv.
Also involved in like, I grew up on the west side of Savannah, and I definitely was kind of involved in like a group of people that sold drugs together and stuff like that.
Not
You
a
know what I mean?
gang.
No, I wouldn't say
Just
that it
a
was
group
called
of-
like
no.
the Rolling 60s Crips or anything like that. I wouldn't go as far to say anything like that. But I would say that it was an organization of young men that shared in some camaraderie.
There you go.
And we shot guns sometimes up in the air, and we sold drugs.
Wait, so you're kind of a very nuanced figure. This is like
It almost sounds like ISIS.
No, this almost sounds like you're like a Zoomer Tony Soprano, where
Yes.
you're like in high school
Right.
gangbanging, but you really want to be an improv.
Honestly,
It's like,
it's like
like Barry. You just want to do improv.
I kind of like more like High School Musical type vibe, except I wanted to trap, not play basketball or play whatever the fuck that.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
that? You're just walking
Yeah.
around, I got ace, whatever you need.
I got
They
clothing
all
I
want me,
like.
but no one needs me.
I got Zans for you. Who's got Zans? Why's got Zans?
Yeah, it's
You know
like,
what I
there's
mean?
no dancing. Everyone just jumps out and falls down
And throws
immediately.
up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone's ODing and you're like, yes, and
like trying to harmonize with their mouths. So
Flush the work and don't call the cops.
right. So I was a funny dude. I always wanted to make. I wanted to get the laugh. Like I had a big group of friends. We always partied.
Right.
And I always wanted to be the funny dude. You know what I mean? They were in school and shit. I should have been in fucking school too, but I got
You say that was weird. I think they were just in school and shit.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's
That's normal.
Legally,
we were
what
like
a lot of
16,
people-
right? But I got my own place, got a job. I was hooking up with this girl, and her dad got me a job at a restaurant. I was a pretty cool kid, man. I was.
I mean, it sounds like you're just an A1 person.
at least you got a job.
Right, and I got a GED and did all
there
the
you go.
things. Then went to
Okay.
technical school.
Oh, so that's not. Yeah.
No,
that's
dude,
not
That's a
bad.
Exactly.
bounce back from the
I'm one of,
original.
like,
You're
the-
about
bounce
10th grade
back.
part of a
Check this.
organization.
I'm one of like the only 30% of dropouts that get their GED.
Yeah.
So I am.
You looked real loserdom in the eye, and you said, not today.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And
Yeah.
And
Where's your dad and all this?
so my dad, he
Yes.
moved out of Savannah when I was 8. He moved to Atlanta, which is 4 hours north. Now,
So he's not even motivated enough to leave you guys that much. He's like, I'm still in the state.
Right.
Like, I'm still like a.
but he's like just far enough away to do what the fuck he wants to do. You know what I mean? When I was in high school, we started smoking pot together. So that was our relationship.
So that's funny. Your dad leaves, and then drugs actually bring you together.
It's really
They bring some families apart, but they also bring some families together. These are the stories we
That's
need to
what
be hearing.
it did, dude. That's what it did. And I was like, whoa, I can smoke weed around this parent. So I moved up to him when I was like 17.
You know what's terrible?
course.
I had
Yeah,
like a
dude.
similar thing where I only started talking to my dad again because my mom was so mad at me for smoking weed. And I knew like my dad had done drugs, so I was just like, well, I'll reach out. It's sort of like some House of Cards move,
Right, dude.
To get, and then even he's like, oh, that's stupid. I was literally homeless, and I think you're a fuck up right now.
Yeah.
Right. So some similar things happened before. I moved up to him, and he was like, why don't you ever have your own fucking weed? And I was like, because I'm
I love how your
17.
dad's trying to. He like literally abandoned you, and he's like, "Listen, you don't have your. Let me teach you some things about life.
If you're gonna
You
drop out
always
of
bring some to match.
Right. You always bring some to match.
you can
He
drop
also-
out of school, you can join a gang, but goddamn it, you're gonna buy your own weed.
Also, one time, check this
Where's
out.
this gang money go?
This is a real fucking story, dude.
What are y'all rapping about
got-
on the SoundCloud?
I got a phone call at like, it was like 9 in the morning, okay, on like a Wednesday, and I'm.
That's never good.
No, and I'm in
in
my
Wednesday
GED
called
courses.
Okay.
Okay, he calls me multiple times,
Right.
and I'm like, dude, what does he want? And he keeps calling me. My phone's blowing up. My teacher gets pissed to the point where she's like, like check your voicemail. Whoever's calling you, check your voicemail. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, but if you play that voicemail and check it, you're going to play it in front of the whole class right now because obviously it's more important than the plan that I'm teaching right now.
All right. Okay. Teacher has an issue.
Yeah,
so I was like,
also, it's like looking at this voicemail could be a lot of no good.
It was. No good. I answered the phone. I look at my voicemail. I'm like, it's from my dad. And she's like, then me. And I'm like, and I didn't even try to be like, hey, we just got done watching a video about Danny Trejo. This is a GED class. You know what I mean? So I play it. He's hammered.
9 a.m.
Hammered, 9 a.m. in the morning.
You gotta love a 9 a.m. hammer.
And he goes, White, son. White, can you hear me, son? And I don't think he understands he's leaving me a message. And then he goes, I'm here with Jim. And Jim's like his friend. He's like, I'm here with Jim and Steve, White. We're thinking about you, son. And without a beat, he's like, always wear rubber. And my teacher's like, okay, you can turn that off now.
Yeah.
And I immediately click the message. I'm like, save it, because this is just so ridiculous to me.
So fun. Also, it's like, it's 9 a.m. He's getting drunk, and he's like, we're worried about you.
I gotta call my son.
He's like, wait, we're thinking about you. Always wear rubber. That's like the only advice he
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. So I'm not that embarrassed. My buddies and I are like, well, my two friends
the
that I met in
GED
class.
class,
we're kinda
they've
laughing.
all seen some stuff.
Yeah, we're all laughing. So, dude, I walk out and I listen to the rest of the message. He's like, always wear rubber. Son. Oh, son. Man. I wish that I had not had you.
Oh, boy.
And then
This is hard.
And then he just
hard
slams the door closed. Call me back when you can. And like,
that's just the beautiful, I wish I've never had you. Anyway.
Yeah, but I
want to
love
grab
you.
lunch or something this weekend, let me know.
Right. And he's like, well, I do love you. Call me back when you can. My dad is a southern leftist.
Okay.
That is a crazy leftist, too, which is funny because he presses his own family. Right-wing dictator in his own house, but he very much cares about the rights of people in Baghdad.
Same with
like,
Boy.
you're dropping some bombs here, brother.
Right. Same with Boy. I'm like, dude, you work with at-youth risk kids? I was getting arrested all the time when I was like 16 for weed. He was like, well, you had your head up your ass. I'm like...
He's like,
Even though
had literally no direction in life.
Yeah.
Literally none.
Yeah.
The only time I got a DUI is because my dad gave me a Klonopin on Father's Day. And then gave me...
Okay, back
Okay,
up.
yeah.
You can't just say that. So what's happening on Father's Day? What's your Father's Day plan where your dad's just giving you Klonopin?
All right. This was 2019.
Right.
And it was the first time my dad was meeting my ex-girlfriend. And I drive up to this
Big
place.
moment when you're introducing your girlfriend to your degenerate father.
Oh, big moment. You know
terrifying.
how that goes.
Well, actually, no. Not a lot of people have met him. Only my first one did. And that was just sort of I think they just took notes. They're like, this is how to ruin him. And then my ex was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was like passing the torch where it's like, I'm the first one that ruined him, and now you're going to ruin him. And my ex was like, I accept the power.
Yeah,
like, it was like when a lot of people grab the sword but they're not ready.
Right.
Like my ex defined,
She
she
pulled
was
that
like,
motherfucker
my dad
out.
was like, you are the chosen one.
Yeah.
You are the next in the trauma chain.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My dad will just emotionally take people down,
Right.
and I will see whenever I introduce people to my dad, they're all excited at first because they're like, oh, he's from England,
Yeah.
and then they meet him, and they're like,
that's cool.
this guy is terrifying. I had a girlfriend, her name was Tree.
Okay.
And
That's a shitty name.
Whole thing. I introduced her to my dad. First thing my dad says to her, never met her in his life, and he looks at her and he goes, so Tree, whose fucking decision was that? And
Which is, I mean, granted, that is hilarious.
it's true, and it's the right thing to say.
Was she upset?
But it's like also,
Tootle, I
who
laugh.
the fuck says that?
Right.
It's what I went, Dad, and she goes, well, she tells this whole story about why she's named Tree.
What is her mom, Pocahontas or some shit?
It was this thing where like a kid with like mental problems. Her name was Ashley, and he couldn't pronounce Ashley. He called her Tree, and everyone made fun of him. And then she adopted that as his name.
Wait, so she changed her name?
She's a martyr for this kid. It's wild.
So some doofy called her Tree enough times.
And
to
then
where she was
she just said, "I'm Tree."
"Wow."
And her last name was Eddie. I can't do that.
Yeah, no,
I did that got close with Stephanie.
Well, sometimes you get close to dropping the light. You're like, hey, if you burn me enough, I'll say your fucking social security number on
Matthew
it.
Logan.
Yeah, I'll say your home address.
Hey.
Like, fuck your dad fans. Do whatever you will.
Fucking send him pictures of your dick. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, when
Don't
we
do
really
that.
get a flock of Fuck You Dad fans, dude, we should just unleash them on people. I'm excited
do
for
the
that
good.
day.
Just swatting. I'd be like, hey, this booker's not responding to my email.
Fuck
If you
that
want to firebomb
motherfucker.
their house,
if you want a shout out on our next episode, just fucking
just
really
light his lawn on fire.
find out where that guy's kids go to school.
All right,
Okay,
so
so
what's
it's Father's Day.
Yeah, Father's Day. My Father's Day story?
Yes.
Okay, so I was 23, and me and my dad smoke pot together, right? He doesn't drink anymore, but he takes fucking Klonopin and mushrooms and smokes pot all the time.
Which, yeah.
That's about as close to drink. I mean, like,
Klonopin is being drunk.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, Benzos or drinking? I
drinking.
a sober guy once, he's just like, oh, I just take a lot of Xanax and I am sober. And I'm like, no, you're not.
No, you're not,
You're
bud.
slurring right now while you're saying
You
it.
literally will not remember this conversation.
Yes, yeah.
You have the memory of a dog.
Arguably worse drug.
Right. So I'm like, dude, you literally have the brain span of a terrier when you're on that shit.
yeah.
Anyways,
Oh, good.
so I meet him at this place called the Dillard House. It's like a family style buffet.
Okay.
And I meet him outside of it, and he's like, your grandpa, your grandma, and your grandpa are inside, and so is Julie, which is my stepmom, his wife, very cool lady. And he's like, I got you something. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, here. And he hands me a brownie, and I'm like, nice, dude, right on. And he's like, here, this is gonna make you eat the whole damn place up. And he hands me a blue Klonopin.
They
And
do
I'm
make
like,
you eat like a
makes
motherfucker.
you
Benzos,
eat. And I'm like,
because you just have no inhibitions.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dad, I gotta drive an hour and 45 minutes. He's like, you're gonna eat a lot. And I'm like, all right, man.
That's a real Xanax thing. Well, you'll have a lot of cake.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
you're gonna eat a lot, son. Don't be a pussy. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay.
That's so wild, dude.
I pop one, and then I'm sitting there and I'm eating, and I'm pretty
Also,
stoned.
that's funny. Like Father's Day, that you're both just getting pilled out in a
Just
shitty buffet, which
so
is that's
pilled
like
out.
that's like one of the peak white trash things I've ever
Oh,
heard in my
dude.
life.
And
Getting
this is
pilled
the-
out and then eating at
we
like the
don't
country
belong.
buffet.
We don't belong.
No,
in
but
these
you do.
places.
That's the
this is
perfect
thing.
place.
Dillard
to
House is like the Dillard House is like it's like a very fancy restaurant. Like my Mimi has money, dude, and she like got us this. Like it's like I can't think of the equivalent of a restaurant here in Chicago. I would say
fancy buffet doesn't fit because
If-
buffets are usually.
well, it's a family style buffet, and it's also in
I
the
don't know
South.
necessarily
Kenyon.
what that means.
So-
I understand. I grew up eating a lot of Golden Corral, brother.
Right. Okay. In Golden Corral, you got to stand up and go get it.
Yeah.
In family style buffet, they bring it to you like as if your mom had cooked it in a big bowl. So it's
Okay.
like you'll get like so it's like there's a set menu of like gravied steak, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, okra, corn, whatever it is.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then they bring it big bowls.
That makes sense.
And as it's emptying, they just replace it like as if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the food is fucking phenomenal. We do not. I mean, we're so fucked up, dude. We could have been in a fucking McDonald's.
Yeah,
we shouldn't
yeah,
have been
yeah.
there. You know what I mean? We're high as fucking Whitney Houston. And then my girlfriend's like, I can drive for you. And I'm like, sick. So I look at my dad and I'm like, dude, my girlfriend's gonna drive for me. He's like, all right, and he gives me 2 more
For you.
Oh,
for me.
that's nighttime, dude. That's good night.
Oh, dude.
Not when you're doing it all the time.
Bingo. Right. When you eat them like it's fucking candy.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It's like, you don't have to drive? Absolutely. Here
Right.
you go. Well, here.
Well, you might as well die.
That's my overdose with me, son. So
Just lying
Yeah,
together,
dude.
holding hands in the parking
Literally.
lot.
yeah, dude. So I take that shit, and then my girlfriend gets sleepy on the ride home, and I call my dad, and he's like, "We got God on our side."
He's also, no, you don't.
I'm like,
You got
buddy.
Satan on your
I'm
side,
literally
maybe.
like, dude, God hates you, bud.
Yeah.
He probably hates me by default.
Yeah,
you know.
no,
He's
I
like,
think he explicitly made a whole book where he was like, "Hey, don't be your dad." I think the 10 Commandments are just a guide to not be Timmy's dad. it's just step by step everything your dad did, probably today in that day. He probably took all 10 of them.
Thou shalt not adulter.
Yeah.
Thou shall buy thou own weed.
Yeah.
right.
Thou
Do
shalt
not
give
come
your,
in.
your children's prescription drugs
Right.
at a buffet.
Yep. And
Also,
he's like,
I also think that he probably was like, "I'm a good dad."
he absolutely.
Like, I'm giving my kid free Klonopin. Didn't even charge him for
He
it.
was like, I'm really making sure me and my boy have a good time.
He might not go to prom, but goddamn it, I'm gonna get him pilled out at this buffet.
well after
Also, he knows you're gonna drive 2 hours. He's like, "We got God at our side." Like that,
No, I
I
called
would
him and I'm
literally
like-
laugh and pull over.
I called him and I was like, Dad, Maz is falling asleep. I'm going to have to take the wheel. I'm off all 3 Klonopin right now. Do you think I'll be okay? And he was like,
Well, did
damn.
you ask? You know you're not gonna be.
He was like,
even
he
with
was
no
like,
brain.
right. If you have to get reassurance from another human being, you're gonna wreck or something.
Yeah, if you have to call a person and be like, do you think this is gonna work out? It's a no-go.
So true, dude. That's like looking at a soldier and being like, do you have good aim, son? Can you cover me? Yeah. Like, I'm gonna want to not have that guy cover me if I have to ask. So I'm like, hey, Pops, do you think I'll be good? And he's like, you ate all 3? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, but you spiced it. You'll be good. We got God on our side. And I was like, okay. And you're
2-hour drive?
I'm just high enough to be like, he's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's Mentos. You're like, I'm good. You like, you barely open your eyes. You're like, I'm gonna drive across country. Who cares?
So I'm driving. No, it's a 2-hour drive. So I'm going from North Georgia to Atlanta.
Okay.
And then my girlfriend's looking really sexy. So I'm like, I'm gonna pull over and we're gonna have sex.
Yeah, that's step number 1.
That's Xanax though. Okay. And I pull over.
First things first, I'm gonna get even more sleepy. I'm gonna come right now.
Right, dude. I pull over, get in the back seat, start having sex.
Okay.
I see a cop. Now, keep in mind, I pulled over well to the side of the road, and I'm not on the highway anymore. I'm on a side road in a neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's legal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fine thing to do. Yeah. No, you're just
essentially a motel
in a neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a motel room.
That's a private space. That's an autonomous zone.
All right. So I'm having sex, and then I see a cop pull by. And I'm like, this is going to be bad. So I immediately reach over, open the hood, put my pants on, hop out the driver's seat, open up the passenger seat to make it look like I was just going in every door. And then I'm like trying to pour a Dasani bottle of water that I had on my engine to make it look like I'm overheated.
Uh-huh. Not a bad move.
Yeah, actually, for pilled out and having sex, that's a pretty killer.
I sold drugs for a long time, so I had this in my mind already. Dude, it didn't work.
Oh, you mean the guy came out? I love how he probably came out fucked up as shit, adjusted your pants, just poured a bottle of water on your car for no reason. That was not smoking.
The hood wasn't open.
Yeah.
You're just pouring it on.
This guy probably poured it in the gas section like he thinks the car runs on water.
He hit a Yui. And I called my dad, and he was like, oh, shit. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm going to jail right now. And he's like, damn, can I talk to the cop? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, is he crying? And the police officer was like, no. And he was like, and I swear to God, he was like, okay, I'll bail him out then.
Because you're not crying.
Because I wasn't.
I was thinking this. Well, I'm not going to have some bitch on the street.
Yeah, I'm not going to have
he can sit in jail and learn a thing or two if he's crying while getting his goddamn DUI.
He asked my girlfriend again, too. He was like, was Wyatt crying? She was like, no. And he's like, that's my boy.
Oh, my God. And he's like, yeah, sometimes when you get your first felony, you can feel those tears.
Right.
No Tootle of mine's going to cry and
block
up.
Cry over DUI, boy.
Yeah, you cry when you do 10.
So he came and he bailed me out, and then after that, he was like, no more Klonopin and driving. I was like,
Dad, you literally did this.
Yeah, I was like, that was not my plan.
No more hanging out with you.
Right, dude.
You are I'm already in a bad place, and you're worse.
Oh, and it was 2 days before my birthday, and he was like, by the way, me bailing you out, it's your birthday.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know if there's anything to top that. I think, are we at time?
That is funny.
That's fully, man.
You don't, and then after that, you're like, well, we don't have to go to church anymore, right, Dad? I mean, obviously, God was not on my side.
He doesn't go to fucking church, dude. Boy, he doesn't. He's like, I'm spiritual. I hike in the mountains and feel
spiritual.
God. Yeah, I'm spiritual, but he does not believe in fucking God.
That's all my friends do. They all take mushrooms and stare at a squirrel, and they're like, oh, no, I get it.
Yeah, me too.
There's something there, and you're like, yeah, your drug dealer's number in your phone. That's what's there. Wait a minute. There's oh, wow, I just feel like I was connected to a higher power.
He also always brings up how his dick's bigger than mine. He's like, yeah, I remember seeing your dick when you were a boy about 8 years old, getting you dressed for football and being surprised that your dick's that small.
And I looked at this motherfucker and I said, no wonder he's crying like a bitch.
Right.
He's got a small ass dick.
No dick.
This pussy here is crying. You don't even need a cup.
Bro, I had something like that once where my mom, swear to God, I had this rash in between my legs in like middle school.
Yeah.
And it was bad enough that I like told my mom about it. She saw me like, and she was like, "Did the other kids like make fun of how small your dick is?" In sign language.
Shit.
So I'm, getting visuals of your dick, and I just had to be like, "No, there's a urinal. Like, I can't see it." I didn't even. And then some people were like, "Kenny, why do you have a low self-esteem?"
My mom called my dick small.
That's like, I'm surprised you don't kill women.
Right, dude. Honestly, I'm surprised. He's like, I don't. I swear.
What's happened in my life is that the men have been so much more brutal. That's like, oh, that's nice. Actually.
Right.
All the
my dick is grown, by the way. Just
the dominant stuff. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Now you pay women to be like, say my dick is small. Say my dick is small. Step on me.
That is too much of a therapy session for me. I think that was open. Opening a door I wasn't ready to be open on Sunday. All right, I'm gonna have to slam a couple tequila sodies here.
Oh man,
The sodies will make you feel better.
Sodies. Hey, that's what we've been trying for the last 25 years. So.
I mean, it's been the human medicine for thousands of years.
Yeah,
That's true.
Well,
Timmy, that was a
blast
fucking
of
blast.
a
Yeah, man.
We got to do part 2. I feel like.
Yeah, we could. I think we'll
do
just
it.
do a repeat. You're just a residency on Fuck You Dad.
Yeah.
Let's go.
man.
Double high fives, boys. I'm here for it.
So, guys, check out Timmy runs a show at Enjoy on Tuesdays. You should check out, but only check that out once you go to all of the Lincoln Lodge shows every night of the week. Amazing comedy.
Incredible.
Me and Nick and Timmy and Christina, our amazing producer, are all performing there. Please check out our Patreon for the love of God. I don't have anything going on. I'm in an emotional and financial ruin, and I need $30 more a month. I am not above calling every listener personally and crying on the phone.
He will do that.
Yeah, so do that, and just keep liking and subscribing.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe to the YouTube. We love you.
Fuck yes.
Peace
boys.
out.
Hey guys, you just listened to another episode of Fuck You Dad. If you could follow us on our Instagram, which is FCKYOUDAD podcast. That's the important one. We also have a Twitter account, which is FCKYOUDADPODCA1. If you could follow that. Also, please submit any father stories that you have that you'd like us to make fun of, laugh at, or share. Shoot that to our Instagram DMs. And if you could please go ahead and rate the podcast, share the podcast with your friends and family that might enjoy it. And keep listening. Thank you so much.